What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow. So today we are back going to be talking about Survivor season 45, episode 3. What an awesome episode. So, my name is Rachel.
And I'm Alyssa, and in this episode, the Lulu curse continues. Poor Lulu. They tried so hard and then failed so hard.
I feel like I would love to rewatch these 3 episodes, and maybe it's gonna be like 4 or 5 episode arc, but I feel like these first 3 episodes, there's so many good storylines that cross over between all three, like Emily's downfall in episode 1 to now her rise in like episodes 2 and 3, Brandon being Brandon and just sort of sucking at every challenge. Brandon letting Sabaya take the Beware advantage last episode because he doesn't want to lose his vote. To this episode, Sabaya having the idol, losing her vote, making it a big problem here. Sabaya wanting to vote Emily out episode 1, but Hannah quitting. Now it comes back to bite her in the butt here. The Emily and Caleb relationship, there's just so many fun things happening in these first 3 episodes.
Yeah, and I feel like so much of it centers around Lulu, so I'm going to be sad when this version of Lulu is kind of destroyed in the merge, so we'll have to see what happens there.
Yeah, so we start off this episode with Emily calling Sabaya out after not voting last tribal council. Emily, she's asking the questions we want to see. I feel like we haven't really seen this kind of conversation before after tribal council in the dark, where we verbally hear people wondering and calling out other members of their tribe, like, yo, there were only 3 votes read. There weren't 4 votes in there because then he would have read 3. He only read 2 votes, so there's only 3 votes in there. So I thought this was an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too, especially because of Caleb's commentary, which is basically that, like, he also noticed that there were only 2 votes read, but also Emily shouldn't have been pissing off Sabaya because the whole point was that Emily was supposed to be nicer to Sabaya because Sabaya was like, the person she wasn't supposed to piss off. So I think good on her for noticing, but also, again, kind of questionable social skills to like bring it up and bring it up in public in front of everyone.
I guess so. I do wonder if Sabaya lying about voting here maybe leads Emily to not trust her later in the episode. Because I guess if Emily's under the assumption, like, yeah, I still have nothing to lose, it's 3 strong versus me, even though I'm like becoming friends with Caleb, maybe he can't save me kind of thing. Like, if she's not seeing cracks there, like, okay, maybe balls to the wall, but you haven't lost the next immunity yet. So maybe you try to like gain some inroads. But I do wonder if for Emily here, it's like, okay, there's obviously only 3 votes read because if 4 votes were in there, Jeff would have read 3, but only 2 votes were read. So I wonder if this sort of tipped Emily off, like, yeah, I don't want to work with Sabaya. And that goes into what we see later in the episode.
Yeah, but you also have to wonder, like, why not keep your options open, like, just in case? Because they didn't necessarily know that they were going to lose. And maybe if Lulu had won this and then they went into a merge, it would be possible that Emily and Sabaya would have to work together by virtue of being the only Lulu members on their new merge team. So it felt like it was too soon to kind of make the determination about, like, yeah, I'm okay burning this bridge.
Do you think Sabaya should have lied about losing her vote?
I mean, I don't think so, just because I think, again, Emily kind of already knew the truth, and lying to someone's face when they already know the truth doesn't turn out well, I don't think. But yeah, I think it might have been something that would have just been better not to bring up.
Yeah, I feel like if she's calling you out here, you sort of just have to say it because it's obvious 2 votes were like 2 other people voted besides Emily. And if you called it out and pinpointed it, it's not like she said, Sean, you didn't vote, or Caleb, you didn't vote, and they're telling the truth about it. Like she picked the person that actually didn't vote. And yeah, I don't know. Something like that, it's just so easy to figure out the truth that you know the person is lying to you.
Yeah, so I guess it. ultimately, it seemed like it was the right decision for Emily because Emily ended up being able to vote Sabaya out. But I feel like there's a lot of alternate universes where that did not turn out as well for Emily.
I also think we see later in the episode Sabaya telling Emily about the wax idol and the beware advantage. So that's basically her explaining how she lost her vote. Oh, okay, it happened the next day, 2 days later, before the next tribal council, and so Emily, very smart, she's probably like, "Yo, why didn't she tell me this, last night after tribal council?" I feel like that might also add to Emily's willingness to not work with Sabaya this episode and to work with Caleb, because it seems like, okay, it's a little bit too late to create that trust between them if you're telling her things at the 11th hour when you know you need her vote in order to make some kind of move. Then you're telling her this information rather than just sharing that information when she called you out on it.
Yeah, so mm, it also might be one of those things where, again, Emily called Sabaya out publicly. And so I feel like Sabaya could say, like, I wanted to share this with you, but I did not want it to be public. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, like, the juxtaposition we're seeing with the editing, like, all of this Sabaya-Emily relationship compared to, like, last episode and this episode, the Caleb-Emily relationship, where Caleb is fostering that relationship previously, just talking random stuff with her, and then we see them sort of bond because of just him being a nice person here.
Yeah, so I think Caleb definitely made the right choice by reaching out to Emily last episode. And I feel like that relationship might end up being important in the long run as well because it's getting so much screen time, but we'll have to see.
I can't wait. I love them together. I'm like, we need to see this happen as a power duo. It'd be so much fun. In this scene, we also see Sabaya give Emily her shot in the dark back.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting because Sabaya was saying, like, it doesn't really benefit me to have Emily shot in the dark. And that was kind of a trust building moment between the two of them. But again, seems like it didn't really matter that much.
True. So we go over to the blue team. We see Jake lightheaded from blowing on the fire and he passes out. This was sort of scary. I feel like he's very lucky that he didn't fall into the fire like we've seen before or like worse things happening. Hopefully medical looked at him off camera cuz that is definitely like very scary.
Yeah, he said it was because he inhaled the smoke, but it's like that still seems like something that even if you inhaled smoke, that shouldn't cause you to pass out that quickly.
Yeah, it was sort of a weird scene because it's like, okay, we didn't even see medical look at him. Maybe it comes up later on in the season if he has some kind of thing going on here. But like the importance of him passing out here was to demonstrate now Kendra really likes Jake and she feels protective over him because she witnessed him falling. So it's like a weird transition between, oh, Jake falls and passes out almost into the fire to, okay, Kendra likes him and now we want to vote Bruce out.
Yeah. So I think it'll be interesting. I get the feeling that the wanting to vote Bruce out isn't as much of a big deal as they're making it seem. Like it feels like this whole Katurah Bruce thing is going to end in Katurah getting voted out, at least to me personally. So I think they're trying to make the Bruce thing a bigger thing, just to make again the Katurah Bruce conflict last longer.
Yeah, Kendra tells the other women that she likes Jake now, and so Kelly and Katura are like, "Okay, that's fine. We can vote Bruce out." So I do hope, like with the tribe swap happening next week, we do see some kind of coming to fruition with this Katura versus Bruce feud, or like the women versus Bruce feud. Because if it comes tribe swap and they're like all split up, and then nothing really happens between Katura and Bruce, it does seem like, okay, great. They're giving it screen time because these are like the tribe dynamics and it's a 90-minute episode. But it does seem weird, like if Katura versus Bruce doesn't come to a head later on.
Yeah, because it really seems to be the biggest dynamic in their tribe. So yeah.
And maybe it is Katura getting voted out if Blue or some kind of combination of Blue goes to tribal council in the future, because then we see Kelly telling Brando this information about, yeah, the women like Jake now. And then Brando says, oh, yeah, but I think Katura is a little sneaky. So it's okay. Maybe Kelly, Brando are that we saw them close last episode, but maybe they're more close than we might presume.
Yeah, I think Kelly said something like, Brando's my number one. He's the one I'm always going to go to first.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I think
Something to keep an eye on.
I like that they're actually showing us that they are like together rather than like randomly one or both of them are going to vote in a way we don't expect and being like, "Oh, they apparently were allies the whole time." So,
Like Heather and Erica.
yeah. So, yeah.
We get to the reward challenge. There's some shocked faces when people realize that Brandon is the one voted out. But the challenge, they have to start in the ocean. They race to the beach. They have to catch a ball through a track. And then you do a ring toss game in order to win reward, which is a fruit platter and then a tribe raid. Speaking of Heather and Erica, I do wonder, did they make this ball track part easier after Heather couldn't do it in season 41?
I was going to say it did look easier than the previous version, but I don't know if that's just like, hindsight bias, but
Yeah, there was some, like, ouchy, really, really hard falls. I'd be nervous for, like, my ankles or tripping on it, but everyone did it, so there were no Heathers on the ball track portion of this.
yeah. But I don't know, some people did take a tumble or two, so
Big youch. So here, I was rooting for yellow so hard. I was like, when Emily got it, the ball track, I was like, yes, girl, let's do it, because she would probably be the one that maybe couldn't get the ball track portion. So once all of them got through and then Caleb was doing the ring toss, I was so excited for them to win this challenge.
I was too, but this is a total tangent. But every time they have like fruit or anything that needs to be refrigerated as a reward, I'm so confused. Like, do they get the literal fruit platter that they show, or do they get a second fruit platter that's been like in a refrigerator the whole time? Because I gotta say, warm fruit versus cold fruit is a very different experience.
Interesting.
That's where my brain goes whenever they have a fruit reward.
I low key did not think the fruit looked that good.
Yeah, neither did I. Like there were apples and bananas, and I was kind of like, "Where's the good fruit here? Where's the like pineapple?"
I was like, okay, you're starving, so it probably is really good, but it did not look that good from the home.
Yeah, one of them said like, "Oh, I would pay $1,000 just for this banana," and I was like, "Oh, I wouldn't." So
It was
maybe
like a
again, it's
2-inch
just
banana.
yeah, maybe it was just me again. Always easier to judge from the couch.
Exactly. So I really loved like Yellow winning. They were so happy. I love seeing people happy, but also I do like seeing people sad and disappointed on Survivor. And I feel like once we get to the immunity, it's brought up like, oh, the other tribes haven't felt the feelings of losing and having to vote someone out. So I do like seeing these different kinds of emotions, because it's not fun if one group always wins. Like, okay, great. If I were on Survivor, yeah, like let my team always win. But as a viewer, I feel like seeing people's emotions when they're reacting to the highs of winning and that super low of losing is just so good, such good TV.
Yeah, I think it's also hard because like people might call them dramatic, Lulu dramatic for the way they broke down after they lost the immunity challenge because they didn't have that experience of the just like soul crushing defeat. So,
Exactly. So I'm like, I need to see some other people lose so we can have the wealth spread around of people feeling sad when they lose.
yeah, so hopefully with the tribe swap that we know is going to happen next week, they are, better at was going to say better at being equal about who goes home, but it's not really their choice. I hope that there isn't like one dominant team and then one non-dominant team.
So, because Yellow wins, they get to do the tribe camp raid. Caleb is chosen for this camp raid. It makes sense that you're going to go to Red Team because they won the big fishing gear set last episode. Like, there's not really been that much to win yet. So, you're not really being able to raid too much. So, it makes sense you're going to go where the big fishing kit is. Sifu's content sort of weird. He gets this like awkward scene of him doing fake guitar and everyone like, "Oh yeah, thumbs upping it." If it reminded me of the Barbie movie when all the Kens are like singing, and then that's related to On Dates when the guy is just like singing at you and playing the guitar, and it's just so awkward.
What I was wondering about, not about the guitar, sorry, but about the camp raid was, were they told they weren't allowed to steal the flint? Because I feel like that would be the easier choice than stealing the fishing gear.
Maybe. Again, I think you can't steal the stuff that like you earn start with. Like it's not one.
Hmm. Well, that's lame. Like you said, there's not really that much that there is to steal. So raid is dumb.
And also for Yellow, like they don't even have flint or fire, so they can't even use the fishing gear really unless you catch fish and then eat them raw or something. Like they couldn't even cook anything. And then now they're going to tribe swap next time that some of them probably aren't even going to get to use the fishing gear that they just stole.
Yeah. Hmm. So, anyways, back to Sifu and his awkward guitar. I kind of just tuned out just because I don't know what the like play is here. Like, are they just wanting us to like think that Sifu is this really weird guy? Because I feel like that's the only thing I've gotten from any of his content.
It's weird. I'm like, is he's got to be going home pre-merge. Him and J Maya really don't get much content off of Red.
Yeah, so maybe he's one of the earlier people to leave. He could also be like a goat to the end, maybe. And it's just like the person who's sitting at Final Tribal, and you're kind of like, why are you even here?
Yeah, so I guess it'll be interesting come tribe swap. Like they keep on focusing on this foursome on Red and not the other two on Red. Sort of like inequalities with the screen time here.
Yeah, I do think the foursome is not as strong as they would like it to be. So I'm hoping for some nice drama, but it does feel kind of like, you know, like the other two are just being pushed to the side.
Yeah, this is a four-person tribe. There's not even these other two people here. But Caleb, he gets this goodwill advantage, which he has to give to someone on the red team, which basically, if you lost your vote for whatever reason, you get to restore your vote. There's a lot of talk in this segment about Caleb being a salesperson. He's good at talking, he's very friendly. So that might not bode well for Caleb in the future because they think he might be a little bit sketchy because he is so good with other people. Drew tells Caleb about his safety without power that he won on the trip last week. And Caleb gives Drew the goodwill advantage, which is so poetic because it is perfect for Drew to get this advantage so Drew can help Austin out because Austin lost his vote with the Beware advantage.
I do wonder if Caleb only gave Drew the advantage because Drew told him like the most important piece of information. Like he asked Drew, like, "Oh, did you lose your vote?" And then when Drew was like, "No," Caleb still was like, "Okay, you can have this anyway." So it just felt like he was rewarding Drew for giving him information. So
It seems like it based off of the confessionals here too. Caleb saying Drew seems like a player. He is going to be a strong player, maybe to align with in the future. He's playing the game because he risked it last time at the excursion and he won this advantage. So I guess you want to give a goodwill advantage to someone who won't get voted out and someone that is like maybe smart or intelligent or you could see yourself working with and maybe equally is a player rather than like someone who is more aloof or they don't come across well.
Yeah, so I think Caleb being a social threat, I'm really interested to see this continue to play out throughout the rest of the game because it seems like it's been brought up like four separate times now. So
Maybe doesn't bode well for Caleb's longevity, which is very sad. But I do wonder, like, with the poeticness of this season thus far, could this, like, him giving this advantage to Drew sort of screw him over come tribe swap next time? Like, will it be okay? Drew lets Austin use it and then now Austin can vote and then oh Caleb gets voted out because of this or something weird like that happens. Like I think things come full circle so much that that's probably what's going to happen, that he gets somehow eliminated cuz he gave Drew the advantage.
I would kind of love that just because, again, I I still would like to have seen more of Caleb's logic behind giving Drew the advantage, and I also would kind of like him to fall on his own sword. So I I just enjoy it when things are messy like that. So
The drama. So the red team, their foursome, Austin, Drew, D, Julie, they're doing their whole idol hunt throughout this episode. We see Austin and Drew searching for the idol, but they can't really find anything. They're standing watch, splitting up. D and Julie walk up and their keeping watch wasn't that good because they're able to just walk up and be like, yo, Drew, what are you doing? And I feel like approaching Drew here is a good thing rather than just hiding and watching Drew or keeping that information to yourself. I feel like Dee had a good episode this week. We see her trying to solidify this foursome rather than Dee and Julie here could see that Austin and Drew are being sketchy and they could jump ship and say, yo, let's go work with Sifu and J Maya and create a new foursome. So I feel like here it's good that they're trying to solidify this foursome rather than jumping ship so quickly.
I gotta say, I thought it was so funny that the boys were so incompetent. And then as soon as Julie and Dee joined them, they like found the idol, found the rock, found the instructions, knew what to do. Like, ugh, it was just so funny to me that like Drew and Austin couldn't even keep watch correctly, and then Dee and Julie like found them the whole idol.
True. The women doing well here. I do think Austin and Drew's lie about, oh, we saw seafood digging here, so that's why we were digging here. A good initial lie, but then we see later Austin tell them about the Beware advantage, where then Dee and Julie find the rope where the boys couldn't find the rope. And here for Dee and Julie, I do think it does make sense to share the hammer they found with the guys to create that foursome. You don't want them, the guys, thinking you're sketchy and then flipping on you also with Sifu and J Maya. I think solidifying those bonds and sharing the hammer with them hopefully is helpful, but full circle, you know, maybe dear Julie gets idled out because they helped the guys find this idol.
I don't know. I feel like the seafood lie wasn't that good of a lie just because they knew that it was a lie pretty easily. Like, I think B definitely was right on the money the whole time. So I think, again, if you're going to tell a bad lie, just tell the truth. Because it's more suspicious if you tell a bad lie than if you just come clean. So I know they came clean eventually, but I feel like it's kind of put a rift in between them that didn't have to be there.
That's true, but I do think Drew's explanation, like, oh, it was Austin's thing to share, I didn't want to share it. I think it's something like you forgive, but you don't forget. And Dee, we've seen a lot of her this episode, probably will think that way. Like, okay, a little bit sketchy, but maybe we can mend these bonds because you did share the information after. And okay, I guess you can say you don't want an alliance member who's going to spill the beans about your other alliance members' things. So for Drew not to share Austin's advantage in waiting and saying, I wanted him to share it with you himself because it's his own thing and it's not mine to share. I think that could get you a little bit of brownie points, but I do agree, like, if you're caught lying like this, I feel like you forgive, but you don't forget. They're always gonna be a little sketchy in a game like this, but you gotta work with the people you know, and I feel like for Julie and Dee, it does make sense to try to keep this foursome intact rather than blow it up right now.
Yeah. And I mean, even if they do decide to blow up the foursome, they know the most important thing that Austin and Drew have, which is they know about the idol now. And so I think that's one of the things that's going to give the girls power if they do decide to flip and turn on the foursome.
It's good for one tribal council, or if you sacrifice one vote, it's good until merge, or if you sacrifice two votes, it's a regular hidden immunity idol. It will be interesting next time because Austin tribe swap, he would have to be sacrificing his vote on a new beach with new people he just met, which could put a rift into things. Haven't seen the blue team find their idol yet, so maybe that one's still up for grabs. And someone who previously found an idol could find a second idol if they're on Blue Beach now. And we see like Sabaya go home with yellow team's idol. I do wonder here, did Austin and Drew tell Julie and Dee about the mechanics of this idol? Like, yeah, it's a like one or two vote idol. You need to sacrifice in order to get a real idol. Or did they just say, yeah, we got an idol?
I feel like if they didn't tell them about the mechanics of the idol, that might be kind of the straw that breaks the camel's back, trust
Mhm.
wise. So,
Because, yeah, that's easy to like learn about later on, especially if people are going to start talking like, oh, did you hear about the idols this season? They're doing something new. Oh, what are they doing? And then the tea is going to be spilled.
yeah, so I hope that they take one of the idols out. Like, I hope that there's not still an idol free on Blue Beach just because we need to limit the amount of idols. And I think things already get messy when people have missed votes. So I think like all three people who have been voted out didn't have a vote when they were voted out. So yeah.
So, good episode for Dee. She seems very perceptive. I agree. Knowledge is power in this game. So Dee and Julie here, they know who have all of the advantages without the threat of actually holding the advantage themselves. So they could easily throw Austin under the bus for having an idol. They could throw Drew under the bus for having a safety without power advantage. So definitely a good spot to be in because if it comes to the worst and it's you versus like Austin to be voted out, maybe you spill the beans about the idol to try to blindside him.
I think that Dee and Julie are also in a very good place because they built such tight bonds with each other. And so I feel like Dee and Julie like trust each other more than Austin and Drew do. So
Interesting. So we get to the immunity challenge. You have to race out with a cart, get keys, disassemble and reassemble this cart, and do a big cube puzzle. For me, with this puzzle, I'm sort of like, okay, what is the point of the collar? Like, sure, they can see it from a more bird's eye view. It's a little bit easier for them, but the people on the ground were just looking at the pieces themselves as well.
yeah, I wondered that too because I feel like a lot of times when they have a collar, it's because the people are blindfolded. But I think they've also been moving away from blindfolds with heavy puzzles just so people don't end up hurting themselves. So I'm with you. I don't really understand the point of a collar either.
I thought they were going to be blindfolded. I was like, "Oh, that's really hard because these pieces look very heavy and you're blindfolding them to create a 3D cube and make it really hard." But yeah, I don't know. It seemed like some of the collars were good, but like Emily just sort of was standing there at the end.
Yeah, I thought it was funny because when they went to tribal council, Emily was like, I failed as the caller, they failed as the puzzle makers. And I was like, buddy, I'm pretty sure that you just failed at at being the caller. They didn't fail at their part.
The colors on the puzzle I thought were bad again. It was red on red for red team, so hard to see. The other two color combinations were so much easier, same as last week's puzzle. The red on red is just, for me, so hard to visually distinguish, like, oh, the bird emblem versus the background.
It looks like the red team is going to be the one that's eliminated when they swap to two tribes. So maybe production agreed with you. But again, it's kind of hard to say that the color has anything to do with it when the red team won again. So I feel like I would be more mad about the red on red if the red team didn't keep winning.
That's true. We also see during immunity Bruce yelling at Caleb to move out of the way, which, okay, warranted. It did look like Caleb was like a little bit in your business. The puzzle pieces were a little bit in your zone. But I don't know. This was like, oof. I would start crying. I'd be like, "Yo, why are you yelling at me?"
Yeah, I don't like it when people yell at me, so I would not do well with that.
Yeah, a sort of awkward situation. I guess it adds to the whole Bruce is on the outs. We hear, I guess, Kelly, who sat out, say, "Oh, Bruce is being annoying," or "That's annoying," again. So maybe it could be a thing where they want to vote him out next time.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Bruce is gonna make it through the first vote just because they wouldn't hype up him being so annoying if he just got voted out as soon as he could be. So I don't know.
Sort of,
Maybe I'll
yeah.
eat my words, but
He's invited back, the first two-time player of the new era, and then he's sort of getting dunked on in the edit.
yeah, I wonder if it's just like they have to tell a story with what they have. So maybe they wanted to make him more complex. Because, if he comes back as a hero and then just gets a shining edit about how great he is, people are going to be annoyed. So,
Hmm. Yellow team here, I was like, WTF happened? They can't do the puzzle. And then they're so far behind. And then they're like disassembling the puzzle and trying to redo it again. I was like, this is so sad. And then they like just sort of stop because they accept their fate that they're losing. And then the sad background music starts playing. Yellow is just standing there, not really doing anything else as the last other team finishes. And I was like, this is so sad to watch. I like all 4 of these people. I don't want to see Yellow going back to tribal.
at some point, I feel like they should have just started copying off the other teams because they all had the exact same puzzle. I feel like it would have been easy to see, like, oh, they put this piece here, they put this piece here. So, shame on Yellow for not cheating.
I want to see other people experience losing an immunity challenge. For Yellow here, continuously losing must be so tough. Like, this is so sad.
Yeah, and also it's difficult to keep morale up, and I feel like that's half the battle because if you go into one of these really difficult challenges being like we're going to lose anyway, I feel like it would be really hard to like want to try to compete.
Yeah, so Yellow loses once again. Sabaya pre immunity challenge when Caleb is out at the tribe raid. She discusses with Emily and Sean, oh, we should vote Caleb out. I was like, oh, this is fascinating. It's only the third vote. And they're like, oh, he's going to win the game. He's such a good social player. He's going to be good at immunity challenges. If I'm sitting next to him at the end, he's probably going to win. Which is very weird because you're in the new era. Unless they tipped you all off that a tribe swap is going to happen, you're maybe thinking no tribe swap is going to happen. You have until at least 13 for a fake merge to happen where everyone's on one beach before even the real merge happens. And you're trying to vote him out third when there's like 16 people left in the game.
I mean, it might be one of those things where you got to take any opportunity that you can to get out of threat. So I do think that they're definitely setting up for Caleb to be like the merge boot or something, just because he's getting way too much hype way too early for him to like be a legitimate winner contender. I feel like whenever someone's set up as a threat this early in the game, they do not make it anywhere near the end.
I just think trying to vote him out this early, especially when your team already sort of lacks the physicality, might not be the right move because, like we saw with the first 3 episodes here, it's like you are going to keep losing unless you can get it together for these challenges. And like they were saying, yeah, Caleb could have won the reward challenge for them single handedly. Caleb did the ring toss at the end of the reward. So it does seem a little bit like bad to do it right now. Why don't you maybe win a few more? And once it gets down to like 15, 14, right before the merge, then you can try to get him out. But it does seem weird that you are potentially setting your team up for continuously losing by voting out your biggest challenge asset. Same thing we saw with like Kelly and Brando talking about maybe we don't want to vote Bruce out because he's good in challenges and we need to wait a few more right before the merge.
Or maybe they realize that there's going to be a swap soon or like a merge to two soon. So they don't really care. So
That's
it
like
could
I'm like, did
also,
production tip them off? Because in the new era, you're not going to think there's a swap. So did someone tip them off?
well, also, it could just be like, well, we might lose anyway, just because like they voted off Brandon so that they would have some hope of winning a challenge, and then they still couldn't win. And I feel like the effect of being the only loser just compounds over time because now the other tribes are getting to sit out their weakest players. And so it's kind of like if you compete against the three strongest players in the other tribes, you're probably not going to have much of a hope anyway. So
Maybe they're trying to like intentionally Matt Sing themselves.
you never know.
Just seems like weird logic here to try to vote him out on the third vote. After the immunity challenge, when they lose, we see Sabaya telling Caleb, yeah, okay, the fake plans, we tell Emily, like, it's our names. We're going to say this. This is a fake plan so she doesn't get spooked. She doesn't play shot in the dark, or if she has anything, she doesn't play anything, which is pretty smart because if Emily does spill the beans, like, yeah, Sabaya wanted to vote you out, Caleb, she says you're the name. Caleb, if he and Emily didn't have such a close bond, will just think, yeah, no, obviously it makes sense. Emily's saying the vote is me because the fake plan was to tell her my name. So maybe this is like underestimating how close Emily and Caleb are, especially if Emily says, yeah, they actually talked about wanting to vote you out before we even lost the immunity challenge while you were away at the camp raid. I think that is like the final straw because, okay, you could say it's the fake plan, but saying that they were talking about it before we even lost, that should be red flags for Caleb.
I also wonder how much of it is Caleb's like social prowess of like being able to tell, like, oh, something's off, something's bothering me. Because I think if he and Sabaya ever did talk, which I'm assuming they did, other than just to say, like, oh, this is the plan, we're going to tell Emily, I feel like there must be something like pinging in your brain, like, oh, this feels wrong. So
And maybe it's a misplay from Sabaya and Sean here. Maybe they should have waited until they lost the immunity challenge in order to bring up Caleb's name. But also, I guess it does make sense. Like, this is the first and only time they've ever been separated from each other, Caleb getting sent away. So then maybe you bring it up then because you have the privacy to speak freely. He won't just like walk up behind you or something like that. But I feel like it is a good play from Emily here. She's telling Caleb what Sabaya said right before tribal council. She says, oh, sorry, we don't have much time, but the vote actually isn't me. It's actually you. So there's less time for Caleb to scramble and potentially blow it up. And then the votes get switched back onto Emily because then Sabaya and Sean could be like, yo, what the frick, Emily? Why did you tell Caleb we're voting for him? Let's just vote you out as the easy vote. If Caleb did confront Sabaya and Sean about it. So I feel like this is a good thing for Emily here, spilling the beans and waiting before tribal council so no one can blow it up.
yeah, it was definitely good for Emily. But again, I wonder how like longevity is going to be working for it there. So
I have hope. I am hoping here in this episode, I was like, Caleb, please trust Emily here. It was wild. It was so stressful. I'm really excited to see if they become a twosome moving forward or like it's just such an interesting like 2 episode story arc here of Caleb giving that olive branch to Emily. Hey, let's be buddies. Let's be friends. I like you. Let's have some kind of relationship. And then Emily literally saving Caleb's life in the game here because of that bond that they formed. It's so interesting.
I feel like it's kind of the best parts of Survivor.
This is a wild vote because Caleb voting incorrect here, he would effectively get himself voted out with a 2-1-1 vote if Sabaya and Sean both had votes and they voted for Caleb 2. Emily voted for Sabaya 1. Caleb voting for Emily 1. Caleb effectively lets himself get voted out. Sabaya similarly has a lot to lose here because I guess you wouldn't expect her to still not have a vote, but you're expecting, okay, she's going to get the idol, she's going to have her vote, and it's maybe a 2-2 vote, two people, Sean and Sabaya voting together and Emily and Caleb voting together, and then maybe they do a tiebreaker where maybe Sabaya still goes home here, but at least you didn't like not vote or vote incorrectly to get yourself voted out. I feel like for Sabaya, Caleb, and Emily here, so many things had to go right and wrong for all three of them in order to be here tomorrow.
Yeah, so it was a lot of moving pieces. I feel like it's interesting because you would think on a 4-person tribe that there wouldn't be as many moving pieces. But the thing is, I feel like only Sean was 100% sure he was safe. And that's when there's 4 people and 3 possible people to vote for, that's a lot.
And you couldn't even predict that Sabaya would get the idol but still lose her vote. So maybe people were going into tribal council thinking it could be a 2-2 tie, or at least Emily and Caleb were thinking, yeah, it will be a 2-2 tie after she gets her vote back. And we aren't going to step down from the tie. We will get someone, or, we'll get Sean to flip and it won't be a 2-2 tie. So it's just like so wild that so many things are happening.
Yeah, it was so much.
But we get to tribal council. Sabaya, she puts that wax idol into the fire to let it burn, which is fun. Haven't seen this before. She brought some tools to tribal council in order to, stoke the flames, pick up the wax idol. For Sabaya here, also, she probably wouldn't even think she wouldn't even think, oh, I have an idol, but I'm still going to lose my vote. And it's not a real idol yet. So to have to make that decision while you're at the voting booth, like, oh, do I risk it? Do I play the idol this time? It's only good for this tribal, or do I risk it in order to get a more useful longevity idol? That's got to be so difficult for her to make in that like short time period.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was interesting because her burning the thing at tribal council made everyone aware of what was happening, which felt very strange to me. But then also kind of gave us an idea of how long it would take to burn the thing. And it seemed like it took like 15, 20 minutes at the very least to burn through all that wax. So they had a lot of thick wax on them.
I think in exit interviews, she said, yeah, 20, 25 minutes. So it wasn't a short burn.
Yeah, so I feel like that makes it much harder than the thing that was like you have to match up to the tribe flag. So
That's true, because if you even had Flint back at camp, that would still take a long time and you'd have to have a quite a big fire. Like in exit interview, she was saying, yeah, maybe I could have burned it over like the flames from the torches, but those aren't really big enough and the wax would drip, it would put the fire out. So even if you had Flint back at camp, you maybe couldn't have even made a fire big enough, and you'd have to burn it for like 30 minutes there, that people would probably see you and wonder like why you're doing this over in the corner.
yeah, so it didn't seem like something like I had said last week, like maybe you just stick it in while you're cooking and it'll be able to melt. It seems like that would not be possible.
So for Sabaya here, I guess maybe misjudging this closeness with Emily ultimately, thinking Emily is with them to vote out Caleb. If you think Emily is completely with you, like she knows Sean is completely with her. If you think Emily is, okay, risk your vote because it really doesn't matter. It's going to be a 3-1 vote anyways. It's a 2-1 vote. But I feel like this is so hard, and especially her not having a lot of time to think about it and maybe suss Emily out more. It's like people are greedy. You're always going to want more. In real life, happens in Survivor too, where maybe it is safer to not risk your vote, to not do the sketchy option and just to stick with what you have. But having a one night idol is very useless. So, like, if she didn't risk her vote here, the idol is done. Like, there's no point for all of this fiasco.
Yeah, or she could have just used the idol that night because she needed to. I guess it's kind of useless to have an idol if you're voted out.
Yeah, it's like she doesn't think she's going to go home. So then I guess you could be like, yeah, let me play the idol just in case because it is a one night idol and I value my vote. But I don't know. I guess like the whole thing, Emily is with us. It doesn't matter if I vote. That logic makes sense, but it is that misjudgment of Emily isn't actually with you, so the plan is flipping on you, and maybe you suss that out that you play the idol for yourself or you don't risk your vote. But I could see like she came into tribal council thinking, yeah, maybe I won't have a vote still if like the whole burning the wax idol doesn't work out. So maybe it's like a net zero gain. I wasn't going to vote anyways. If the wax idol didn't burn, I would still not have a vote. So let me just risk it again because I wasn't going to vote anyways.
Yeah, so I guess this all really comes down to it seems like Caleb was a better social player than Sabaya. Caleb was able to get Emily on his side, and
Mm.
that's what let Caleb stay and Sabaya go home.
True. Sabai could have played the idol for herself here, sort of awkward, but I feel like that's what makes it such a great episode because there's so many moving parts. There's so many what ifs. There's so many things that like could have went differently for all of these players on the chopping block that would have changed the outcome of tonight's vote.
Yeah, so it was a really good episode, and I'm looking forward to all of the things that are going to happen next episode with the swap.
But Emily's vote gets read first, and we see Emily would know that her vote is being read first, same as last week, and she votes for Sabaya. The next vote taken out of the urn is for Caleb. So Emily would know that Caleb didn't vote for herself, so she would know this second vote is either Sean or Sabaya's vote. So when Jeff is reading the third vote, maybe they're thinking it's still going to be a tie, but when he's reading the third vote and he says the third person voted out of the game is in this moment, then Emily would know that there's only 3 votes and that it's Sabaya going home because Caleb couldn't vote for himself again to vote himself out. And if Caleb did vote for Emily like the original Sabaya plan, it would be a 1-1-1 and then Jeff wouldn't say the next person going home is. So it was great.
Emily knew before everyone else who was going home.
And I guess Caleb would know too, because he would know the first vote is probably Emily's, the second vote isn't him voting for himself. And he would know once Jeff says that word that his vote is that third one coming out. Sean's face here is just so funny. He's like so shocked. And then he's like, oh, F. I'm like, I voted for Caleb. Caleb knows I voted for him. And now I'm effed.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see what Sean has to do when they get back to their camp tomorrow.
Caleb's face leaving tribal council was so cute in that end credits. He was like smiling so big, fist pumping. I was like, yes, you go, Caleb and Emily. You pulled this off. I do want to see some scenes next week if people wonder why only 3 votes were read again. If they think Sabai didn't vote, or maybe Sean could play it off and say, yeah, I didn't vote. That was me, and pretend that Sabaya voted and voted Caleb. But
I
either
don't
way,
think
Caleb
Sean would
knows
be
they
able to.
flipped on him.
I don't think Sean would be able to pull that off. Like, what could be a reasonable excuse for why he didn't vote?
Yeah, they already know who had the Beware advantage. So Caleb knows they flipped. So Sean's lucky potentially that there's a tribe swap unless he gets into a worse position with a tribe swap.
Or he could just give a genuine apology, say he didn't know what was going on, and hope that it works.
Yeah, potentially. If there were no tribe swap for Sean, if they lost again, like you're probably getting voted out.
Yeah. So
But I think it'll be fun if Sabaya does get invited back. I feel like she's fun TV, so I would, if they do like a pre-merge, post-merge season, I think Sabaya should be invited back.
I think so too. So this cast has been really good so far.
Yeah, Brandon is killing it on social media. His posts are so funny. So even him, if he can do some puzzles next time, maybe he can come back.
Practice puzzles.
But I'm really excited for next time. This is the first tribe swap in the new era, which is so freaking exciting. Next Wednesday, I'm going to Bryce and Wendell's event in DC. So their live show, it's going to be so good with the tribe swap. I'm so excited.
I'm jealous. I'm jealous.
Yeah, so let us know in the comments down below what you thought of this episode. Do you want to see Emily and Caleb become a power duo? I think it'll be so much fun. Do you think they made the right move of voting Sabaya out this episode, or should they have just voted Emily out here? Let us know in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you all next time with another recap.